Today I'm standing at the Correctional Development Center here in Nashville, Tennessee. And joining me is the Director of Programs, Paul Malloy, who is going to be telling us all about an amazing program called PAWS. So thank you, Paul, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
Paul, have you guys seen the adoption rate increase since you implemented the program?
We have. The program is about 8 weeks long, and it's a co-ed class. It's males and females because we house both at this location. And the adoption rate, when we first looked at it, was really low, in the low percentages, 30%, 40% maybe. But now it's way up to the 90s. Sometimes 100% of the animals we train are adopted back into the community, which is huge for us and for the community. And also it sends animals back that are ready to go into families. And a lot of the animals that show up at Metro Animal Control have some serious issues. They've been abused at times, or they haven't been cared for well. So even establishing a real healthy relationship by the offenders is critical in the beginning, and it takes several weeks for the animal really to, enjoy being around people again, really.
Right. Now, you said it takes about 8 weeks for them to do the training?
It does.
And what's involved in the training?
They train for obedience, they train for command, they train for but the basic animal, just the command system with what an animal should and should not do, no biting.
Potty training?
Yeah, potty training. And
good.
The most necessary things you'll need, especially with small animals and puppies in houses for people. So.
Is it just dogs? Because I see you referring to dogs. Is it
we
cats
do. We only train the dogs at this time, but I don't think many people know that Metro Animal Control and Care Center, they have every animal you could imagine. They have dogs and cats, and they've had horses and donkeys and goats.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
They've had they've had everything there. So anything that you would have in the community, animal-wise, will end up at Metro Animal Control. It's kind of like a microcosm of the jail. The jail is just a microcosm of the community.
Well, if they're only training the dogs, how do the other animals get adopted?
Well,
There's no horse training or kitty cat training.
Well, it's the care, I think, that the inmates give them. You'll see later that the offenders that go down there really take care of the animals. And when in that relationship with them and the animals, they learn how to be empathetic with, say, the animal, which translates in relationships. And they also prepare the animal that people would want to adopt them. So it's a win-win all the way around.
It sounds like a win-win. If your adoption rate is up to 90%, that's great. And I'm a huge animal lover, so that warms my heart to hear that. So tell us a little bit more about the program. Do the offenders have to meet a certain criteria?
They do.
Is it criteria or criteria?
Criteria.
to be able to do
make the program. They do. They have to be housed at this facility. And they also have to be willing to participate in the program, males and females. They have to be within 60 days of release. So the people in the program are coming back to the community. It's not like they'll be here for years and years. You know, part of the programs, it's not just about the adoption of the animals and training of the animals. It's also the offenders learn skills, employable skills. The sheriff always says we don't want to show inmates how to build license plates because there's no place for them to transfer that skill.
Right.
But when they're building shelters for the animals, that's another part of the PAWS program. They build dog houses, bird houses, and because of the new laws about chicken, we have built chicken coops.
Chicken coops.
So if they could build those structures, they can also transfer those skills in building houses in the construction field.
Does the program have any kind of partnership?
They do. Actually, you have two Metro agencies working together, the Sheriff's Office and Metro Animal Control, which is really part of the health department too. So it's like 3 Metro agencies, but we also have community partners. We've had several community foundations help us supply the materials for building of the shelters, like the Community Foundation is one example of that. They help us with funding for the material to build the structures that are needed.
Do the offenders, once they volunteer, get to pick the dog that they want to work with, or is there a dog assigned to them?
Mostly the dogs are assigned, and we usually have 1 dog and 2 handlers in case somebody gets out early, or we need to have 2 people working with them if someone's, say, in court or they're in medical, so on and so forth. So you need 2 handlers per animal.
So once the offender volunteers for the program and they meet the right criteria, how long is their class to learn the training that they're going to implement on the dogs?
Well, it's an ongoing, like on-the-job training, actually, was what it is. They're trained with an instructor from Metro Animal Control, so she's teaching them what to learn the whole 6 or 8 weeks, and during that time, they pick up those skills. So not only is the animal learning the skill, the offender is too.
Oh, so they're both learning at the
That's
same time.
So it's kind of a collaborative between the animal and the person, which is pretty unique.
Yeah, that is very unique. I could see where they would probably form a bond too.
They do, and sometimes those bonds become pretty powerful because we have the adoption, and when the animals are adopted out, the offender sometimes, you know, has a little bit of a problem because they've spent so much time and energy with the animal, so it's hard to let that go. Yeah, which is good. I mean, it shows empathy.
But if the offender's almost ready to get out, would they have the option to adopt?
And that has happened. And offenders have gotten out and come back to like a graduation and adopted one of the animals they work with.
Oh, what a happy ending.
So
I like that.
It worked out pretty well.
Yeah, okay.
And we've had a lot of officers actually here adopt the animals that we've trained.
Paul, is it a possibility you show us where the offenders work or some of the work they've done?
Sure, there's an area in the back of the building where we do our construction of the shelters.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Paul says he'd like to introduce us to one of his very important instructors here on the site.
And this is Winston Davidson.
Good morning.
Well, hello, Winston.
Hello,
very nice
hello.
to meet
How are
you.
you? Yes.
Thank you for joining us on Get to Know Metro. I understand you're a volunteer.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Now, how often do you volunteer for this program?
Well, this program, we try to get out here Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday if possible when our schedule permits, and we do it usually from 2 p.m. to around 5 p.m. And we do basic construction, basic math, and construction safety. What a guy will do, he'll learn to do tape measures, conventional housing skills. If you see the dog houses over there, you'll see the different levels. We have people that have anywhere from journeyman skills to beginners. It is a co-ed program, so we actually from time to time have the ladies in there with us too.
So pretty much 3 times a week you volunteer. That's an awful lot of time.
Yes.
What inspired you to be a volunteer instructor?
Well, I was helping out a friend who was the 2 program stands for the way out, you know. And Brother Cardell Kidd, who is a licensed contractor on this site, had some work he had to do in Florida. So we came in to help with the program while he's doing some of his have-to work, right?
Right.
You know, and we had to do profiles and background checks and all that. Me and my brother over here. So we got into it a couple of years ago, and we just kind of stayed with it.
So you've been doing it for about 2 years?
Yeah, about 2 years now. Yeah.
And a friend helped you be inspired to do this. Now,
Right,
do you have? You mentioned basic math and some construction skills. Do you have experience in the construction field?
I do have some carpentry skills, and they are basic also. You know, we're not certified, but Brother Kidd is right. We do follow the core curriculum of National Center for Construction Education and Research, and it's full of OSHA standards, basic contractor skills, and even some cranes and lifting objects, and how to make sites safe and all of that. You know, so we cover everything.
What's the most rewarding experience you've had? Can you share it with us?
The most rewarding part of this is camaraderie between the inmates and us. What happens is it always seems to be a level of one helping the other. So they don't just take, they give also.
So maybe the guys in the program that are a little farther ahead?
Yeah, some have been roofers, some have been carpenters. They worked on different sites. And they'll help the newer guys, along with it. So we can take time with somebody that doesn't know anything while they progress on into what they're doing. So it's a win-win situation.
Well, Winston, I just think that's amazing how you're giving back to the community. I think it's a beautiful thing you're doing. Paul, what does it mean to you to have people like Winston who just volunteer their time, and how do you find these volunteers?
Well, I think the volunteers that we have with the Sheriff's Office is incredible. We couldn't do half of the programming that we do here without our volunteers. And this is a volunteer state. The sheriff says it all the time. Being in the volunteer state, we have some luxuries that maybe other states don't. And it's people just like Winston that really make these programs work and really affect change for individuals coming back to our community.
Do you have recruiters to find the volunteers?
Well, actually, Thomas Hunter runs our career development tracks piece, and so he's really good at finding volunteers or twisting arms a little bit to get people to come in to help out with the needed skills that we have. So,
how many volunteers do you have in the entire program? Do you know?
Maybe 10, I guess, or 11 if we spread them out through all the programs in career development. But we probably have hundreds of volunteers that come into the jail every day.
And you had mentioned that it's co-ed, so sometimes you have women out here actually learning the construction skills?
Yes, co-ed, yeah.
Wow.
Believe it or not, they're very detailed in what they do. So, you know, we take time with them. We teach them how to, you know, how to use the tools safely, and they do. Men more, you know, men are more relaxed with power tools, but women are actually more detailed. They actually cut a straighter line sometimes. So,
Winston, has any of the women made any of the dog houses or chicken coops?
Yeah, they've actually, you know, this stuff. The work is 100% by the workers. Now we lend our, you know, our knowledge to it and kind of direct them, but they actually build these things. Yeah.
I was just wondering if it was strictly a woman-built doghouse.
Oh no.
So everybody helps everybody.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's a collaboration.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Get to Know Metro.
My pleasure.
We applaud you and your volunteering for this great program. Paul, thank you. You've been amazing. Right now we're standing with David Smith. He's in the 2 program, which builds and constructs the dog houses and the chicken houses and all kinds of stuff for Metro Animal Shelter. So David, thank you for being with us here on Get to Know Metro.
You're welcome.
Tell us how this program has helped you.
This program has helped me actually a lot. I'm just here utilizing my skills and furthering my skills toward my resume and also my trade in construction.
So have you had any construction experience prior to this?
Yes, ma'am. I attended Great Ung's Job Corps for a year and a half, and I took up brick mason there. And kind of sort of we had a lot of stuff to do with as far as building and constructing frames on houses and pouring concrete.
And by being in the program, you've learned even more skills.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
And do you feel grateful for having that opportunity?
Yes, ma'am. I'm totally blessed to have it.
Would you be okay with sharing us why you're here?
I'm actually here on a probation violation.
Do you think that you won't be back?
Yeah, it's definitely my last time.
Well, that's great. That's great. Now, what will you do once you get out? Will you try and get a job in the construction field?
Well, I'm actually going to further my career in the construction field and also obtain my barber's license while I'm here.
Your barber's license?
Yes, ma'am.
Like a haircutter? Barber?
Yeah, haircutter.
Do you practice on yourself?
Somewhat, and other guys in the facility.
I see you have kind of a funky do going on there.
Yeah, I got a little
Well,
funky.
good for you. So you're a very creative person.
Yes, ma'am.
I see. Do you help other offenders? Since it seems like you've had experience in the construction field prior to this, do you help others in the class?
Absolutely. I try my best to help any way I can, guiding and leading the older, younger guys that I'm dealing with and working with day to day.
So ladies and gentlemen, David Smith is ready for hire. He's got the skills, he's got the attitude, and he's ready to go. Congratulations on the program.
Thank you so much.
And being a part of it. Thank you. Well, in case you're wondering where I am now, I'm at the Animal Metro Control Center here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I had the pleasure of speaking with Sheriff Hall, who I understand should take all the credit for coming up with this amazing program called PAWS.
Well, I don't know about the credit, but yeah.
How'd you come up with this program?
Back in 1993, I lived in Australia and worked in a prison in Australia, and while there, they had a program where they brought animals into the cells, and the inmates and animals coexist there. And it was a lot about teaching responsibility. It was a lot about kind of a partnership with their local animal control center there in Australia. And so in 1993 or 4, I came back to Nashville, and I didn't have the courage to do it in 1994, but as we were looking and the city was deciding where to place the animal control facility, it became located here on our compound here where our facilities are located. And I immediately came, I don't even think the building was finished yet, and I was trying to knock on the door to say, look, can we find a partnership and can we find a way to work together? And it's been a fantastic relationship the whole time.
So tell us what PAWS stands for.
Yeah, it stands for Pets Adopted Will Survive, and we use a lot of acronyms in the Sheriff's Office, but just really the relationship that we started years ago, and we wanted to be able to help animal control with a way to get more animals able to be adopted, socialization of the animal. But the other thing that's very important to us is it's therapeutic for the inmates as well. It's what we do for a living, trying to get men and women prepared to go back into society and be socialized in a way that they can perform. And so we see it as a win-win. The relationships are important, and the adoption of the animal is very important, but also the adoption of our community, of the individual getting released.
Right.
And, we're very important to us.
What has been the most rewarding thing that has come to you on a personal level from implementing this awesome program?
You know, I think just some stories over the years, and one that kind of comes out to me was years ago down here at the facility, several years ago, a very large man, a very macho man who was incarcerated for some very serious offenses, was down here working with the animals, and my understanding is, and we had this actually on video later on, where that individual was caught crying and very upset emotionally. And what that was about was he was reliving some of his relationships that he did not handle very well in his real life. And so the relationship he was developing with this animal down here was bringing that out in him. And so as weird as that sounds, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to affect both the animal and the individual. And we believe that it has a significant impact in recidivism, which is an important thing for us. The national average is in the 70s of people who come back to jail the first year that they're out. In Nashville, it's in the 60s, but people who participate down here, it's in the 20s. And so we're very proud that it has an effect on that population, and also the animals. We think it's a win-win. Since
you've implemented the program, you've seen the adoption rate increase quite a bit.
The adoption rates are and I jokingly say this, that our staff adopt a lot of the animals, which we love that too. And but we've also, over the years, we've done variations of the program. One of the things that we're going to start again here real soon is we're going to take animals back and live with mothers who are incarcerated, and allow them to become better parents with puppies that are in the system here, who, if not adopted, we know don't have a long life expectancy. And so we want to get them able to be adopted through a program that we use. We've had to discontinue that for several months because of our relocations down here, but it will allow us to have an adoption rate for puppies and also an obedience training program for them. We did that for years, and really it was tremendously successful. You saw a lot of people who, after 8 weeks, the puppies were then not only obedience trained, but able to be adopted, and the adoption rate for them was 100%, and the high rate of those were our staff who become very close to the animals during this time, and actually the mothers of the incarcerated person who was the unfit mother is the other success story. Many stories of that person who was out on the streets using drugs and not being a responsible parent. When their child was crying or upset, they were out using drugs in the streets, and now they're in their living quarters here, and these animals and puppies are crying, and it's their responsibility to get up and feed and clean and maintain the puppy. So
I could see how this would help get the animal adopted, because if you adopted an animal that's not trained, I mean, it's very costly to train, a dog, or especially a puppy. I understand, is this program mainly for dogs? Is there cats included, or?
We've worked primarily with dogs, especially in the cell program where we used to take them back. But down here we work with everything. Anything we can do to help animal control our staff and our inmates. We've had some funny stories over the years with variations of animals that you wouldn't have expected. Of course, we build chicken coops. We do a lot of different things with manual labor, trying to help out. We build dog houses for people who are adopting animals who do not have the funds to go buy a dog shelter. And so we have a grant where we build and get the equipment, the inmates build the houses, and when you adopt an animal, we give you a dog house to go with it. So we just think it's an important relationship. Our partnership with Metro Animal Control is fantastic, and we live on the same grounds here, but really in our own way, we're doing the same things. We're trying to get people and animals better prepared for release, and that's what we're doing.
Do the animals live in the, is it a cell? I mean, does they actually live in the cell with the offender?
Yeah, we have a program called, it was a cell dog program, and we've done that for years, and it's been on hold for about a year, and we're starting that again here next week. And what we will do is we'll take puppies that are down here that meet certain criteria. We will pair them up with mothers who are in our system incarcerated, and the animal will live in the cell with the mother for 8 weeks. Their obedience trained by the mother. And fed and cleaned and maintained while there. And at the end of the 8 weeks, we hand them over. We have a graduation. We hand that leash over to a person who is adopting the animal. And we've had family members of the inmate come and adopt the animal. So when the inmate gets out, that's their animal. And it's been extremely successful with changing behavior of the population that we manage. And we've seen puppies really become, the before and after picture is pretty amazing. You have this puppy who may not follow the exact rule day one. Yeah, it's been very successful. We're happy to get it going again, and been very, very successful.
But I understand it's not just women; it's also men.
Yeah, we started it. Yeah, we started it for women, and I've always been interested in the mother role because we have mothers that are incarcerated that haven't been responsible parents, and fathers too, by the way. But what we've really found is that relationship's pretty significant while they're here. They're clean, they're sober, and they have a responsibility of an animal, and that's what was going on in Australia. They believed that the responsibility was what they were teaching, that the animal needed assistance and help, and it's your job to do that. And you were disciplined as an inmate if you didn't take care of your animal. It had to be clean and bathed and fed, and those things that we all know as parents, but a lot of these people don't have that responsibility built in them.
Right.
They've been using drugs and
or they haven't been taught the skills.
Right. So we're really, but yes, fathers are also able. We do a male program as well. The female one is the one that we're really focusing on first again and trying to get that started. And again, the adoption rate was 100%. We're very happy with that.
Do you have pets of your own?
I do. I have Skittles, who is he runs the house, Skittles. And yeah, and trust me,
it's a dog, right?
It is a dog, and I grew up with every animal in the world. My sister has a farm now, and we grew up with every animal. I'm just not home enough to take care of a whole lot like I should be. So, but yeah, I've been a big fan.
You sure you don't want a kitty?
Well, if I could, there's plenty of good ones here. Yeah, that's right.
They're all meowing.
They're well behaved, actually. So.
Tell me a little bit about the partnership. I understand it's Metro Animal Shelter along with a couple other.
Yeah, we're here obviously on the same grounds, which really makes it a natural fit, but we share a lot of services too. It's a very good relationship, and again, we've often offered manual labor. We come and help and clean and bathe and do anything we can with the animals, but also the facility here. And I think Animal Control would say the same. We really feel like we're all under one roof, and we all literally live on the same place. And believe it or not, our jobs are very similar. I mean, we talk the same language: overcrowding, the health, the welfare, even the adoption. That term is used for animals, but in our world, it's the community adopting the individual again. Right. Are you going to allow this person to come back into your community? And so we live the same way.
Rehabilitation. I mean, even with the animals that are out there and they haven't been treated right or been abused, they really need to learn to trust again. Human interaction and stuff. Yeah,
we've done some stuff years ago too in this program. I thought it was really powerful, where you would take the victims of an animal cruelty case that were here, seriously victimized animals who were in court cases, and we would pair that animal up with a male perpetrator of domestic violence. The male was in jail, convicted of a domestic violence offense, and we would pair these two things up, things as in the person and the animal, and say, look, your job is to work a relationship out with this animal, and trust me, on day one, that animal is not interested at all. because it's been victimized. And so we've seen a lot of really deep emotional movement from the individual in that, and the animal as well, trying to get that to be better prepared for adoption. And so there's a lot of relationships that can be shared and a lot of, I think, benefits to both populations.
Is there anything else about the program that I haven't asked you that you'd like to share with us?
You know what, I think the only thing I've always said, we try to think outside the box in what we do. We hardly ever say no to ideas about what programs would work. And I've just always had, I grew up about 2 blocks from this building, and just always had this idea that I felt like we could take some way, take the inmate labor source that we have and help build additional shelters and grow the space for the animals. So obviously you would have more needs, but you would also have more animal space. And I know that's always a challenge here. And so we've got a labor source, and we have the skill sets to do some of that. It's just how do we, with our climate, how do we do it where you could do this year round and give space to the animals where it'd be fewer animals that were put in bad situations, whether the adoption rates are higher or lower. I think we could grow the program.
Well, I think it's an amazing program, especially as an animal lover, but also, I like to see people being released back into the community, being rehabilitated, truly rehabilitated. So thank you for the amazing program, and we appreciate you talking to us here on Get to Know Metro. I'm Michelle Spaziano with Get to Know Metro. Catch us here on Metro 3 every Saturday at 7 p.m.